So what is up mga ka-Wildcats? And today we will be having another video about the awareness of negative anthropogenic effects on the environment, specifically fauna. So how invasive can we be, specifically to fauna? But first, let us define the meaning of fauna. So what is fauna? Fauna is all of the animal life present in a particular region or time. It can be elephants, butterflies, the flamingos, or tigers. So it is all of the animal species in the environment. And all of these species make up a biodiversity. So this biodiversity also has what we call the carbon cycle. So the carbon cycle is the biogeochemical cycle of carbon, which is the main component of biological compounds. So this means that carbon is one of the main components of living things like animals or the fauna. So why is the fauna or animals related to the carbon cycle?
So, what is the relationship between the carbon cycle and the fauna? Based on what we see from the food web, the animal species play a significant role in the carbon cycle. As photosynthesis occurs in plants, these plants are now contained with carbon dioxide. That was from the soils or the atmosphere, which is then passed to herbivores when they eat these plants. As for carnivore species, they take in carbon dioxide by eating other animal species. And as these organisms die, they will start to decay and leave carbon nutrients within the soils, creating fossil fuels. Similar to humans, animals also let out carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This process is defined as respiration. In addition, based on recent studies, animal species can act as mediators in the carbon cycle, since they are able to mediate carbon fluxes and biochemical processes through altering relationships between species in the food web and change the population abundance.
Le Chatelier. Le Chatelier's principle or equilibrium law is a physics law which predicts what effect a change in temperature, concentration, or pressure will have on the position of the equilibrium in a chemical reaction. This principle was named after a French chemist named Louis Le Chatelier. When a system is in equilibrium and a stress is added to the system will shift in order to elevate itself of the stress in order to return to equilibrium. When concentration changes, it may lead to adding or removing of particles or substances. And when temperature changes, it may create a process called endothermic and exothermic. When the pressure changes, it only affects the gases. Now, the carbon cycle plays a key role in regulating the global temperature and climate of Earth. The SNOPs, or carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, associated in the carbon cycle, have a big impact if one of these elements are increased or decreased. It affects the equilibrium of the Earth. Too much carbon will increase the temperature of the Earth and helps land plants grow more. However, too much carbon in the oxygen in the ocean will be toxic to marine life, for it will make the water acidic.
Human activity often changes or destroys the habitats that plants and animals live to survive. Human activities like burning fossil fuels for electricity, for heat, and also for transportation, like cars, motors, and such, causing the increase of carbon and greenhouse gases that disrupts the equilibrium, causing what we call the effect of tropogenic. Human impacts the physical environment in many ways: overpopulation, pollution, burning fossil fuels, and deforestation. Changes like these have triggered climate change, soil erosion, poor air quality, and undrinkable water.
So, what are invasive species? Invasive species are plants or animals that are brought into new and unfamiliar environments through human intervention, intentionally or accidentally. These species are able to quickly adapt and take over entire ecosystems due to the absence of a natural predator or rapid reproduction. The existence of invasive species can cause direct and indirect effects to the environment and economy. The Philippines actually has the greatest number of invasive species present in Southeast Asia. Examples are the mosquito fish and cane toads were brought into the Philippines to fight off the dengue outbreak in 2016. The Gombusia affinis, or mosquito fish, proved to be ineffective against diminishing mosquito populations, as they would also heavily feast on invertebrates and plankton, causing major ecological damage. The cane toads were mistaken for bullfrogs and reproduced quickly. These toads were hostile predators and were harmful to wildlife and humans due to its lethal poison. Human interference in its attempt to solve problems through bringing in species that can turn out to be invasive inadvertently creates bigger problems for the environment and society.
What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is an emerging field of science that studies heritable changes caused by an deactivation and deactivation of genes without any change in the underlying DNA sequence of an organism. Epigenetic changes are modifications of DNA that regulate whether genes are turned on or turned off. These modifications are attached to DNA and do not change the sequence of DNA building blocks. Within the complete set of DNA in a cell or genome, all of the modifications that regulate the activity or expression of the genes is known as the epigenome. The promise of epigenetics is that it tells us about the cell. It's a way to define the cell that's different than just looking at gene expression levels. We could look at any kind of cell and it will have a specialized epigenetic patterns. There are two types of modifications. There are the DNA methylation and histone modification. DNA methylation goes awry in cancers. So if we knew the normal pattern of methylation and then look at the pattern of methylation in a tumor, we could see what changes were taking places and we could see which genes were being affected. While a histone modification is equivalent post-translational modification or PTM to histone proteins, which includes methylation, phosphorylation, acetylation, and ubiquitination. Epigenetics is an area where scientific knowledge is rapidly increasing. One thing that scientists have discovered is that epigenetic errors are common in diseases such as cancer, metabolic disorders, and in aging cells. As a result, scientists are developing medicines that target fully epigenomes. And one of the first examples is the use of HDAC inhibitors or histone deacetylases, similar to the compound found in royal jelly.
So that is it, everyone, for this video. I hope you guys learned something about the negative anthropogenic effects to our environment. And if you guys like this video, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.